One thing about food, I'm a foodie. I'm a foodie.
Foodie?
Foodie, yeah. I love to eat. So, during shoots, yeah, I avoid, but when I'm at breaks, yeah, I hog on food. But I'm an animal lover too.
Oh. So that's why you eat them?
That is quite the fair question that Sadhguru had asked, and in fact we vegans ask a similar question too. Why love one and eat the other? To call yourself an animal lover while you kill and eat animals is beyond ironic, but it's not entirely this lady's fault. You see, we are born and raised in a speciesistic society, a society that teaches us and normalizes violence towards certain species of animals while also teaching us to love and cherish other species. Although this woman is free to label herself anything she wants to, objectively speaking, she's not an animal lover. There is no such thing as a non-vegan animal lover, just like how there is no such thing as a kids-loving child molester. You see, meat does not come from an animal. Meat is an animal, an exploited, tortured and murdered animal. A meat-eating animal lover is just an oxymoron.
Tried many a times, like, okay, I have to quit eating non-veg. I have tried that also, so I've stayed away from non-veg for a week or 10 days. But the minute when I see somebody having non-veg, I'll be like, okay, from next month. I don't know, how do I come out of this? Like, of course, like even I have 2 pets at home. And I don't know, like, what do you say, Sadhguru, about this whole thing, this non-veg and not eating non-veg?
Well, I at least appreciate this woman's honesty. She knows it is wrong to harm animals but is still compelled to eat meat because she is tempted by it. I agree it is tempting, and there is a saying, old habits are hard to break and new habits are hard to form. But that is when you have to ask yourself why you decided to go vegan in the first place. You see, if a human were being held at gunpoint right now, they would be begging for their life. They would be willing to give up their wealth, their fame and everything just so that they could live another day. Because in the end, our life and our bodily integrity is what we value the most. You need to remind yourself that the non-veg that you see and salivate over also came from an individual who begged for their life. The only difference is that this individual was not human, but this difference is not reason enough to justify exploiting and murdering them. If you truly keep the real victims in mind and feel bad for them and not for your taste buds, you will realize that staying vegan is much easier.
That's what they say. Even I've seen people talking to the chicken and all very nicely, and next week they'll eat them up.
I really fail to understand why Sadhguru is laughing here. I mean, what's so funny about killing a chicken? I agree he's trying to be friendly and not come off as rude or judgmental to the lady here, but to laugh at the violence and brutality that these chickens face trivializes their suffering so much. He's laughing, she's laughing, now everyone watching is laughing, but what about her? She's not laughing, she's crying. Why laugh and trivialize such barbaric acts of violence?
Are you vegetarian or non-vegetarian?
I'm a humanitarian.
Humanitarian?
I have no idea why Sadhguru went full secular here. Usually while presenting his views on other social or religious issues, he's very straightforward. Is it so offensive to say that you don't eat meat in this country? What does being a humanitarian have to do with what you eat? Why is he dodging such a simple question? There are so many gurus worldwide who openly condemn meat eating and animal slaughter.
Dear meat-eating viewer, please tell me, who gave you the right to eat your neighbor? Just because it's weaker and less intelligent, and because it innocently did not think that those who raised and fed it would sell it off to the slaughterhouse.
A practicing Hindu has to be vegetarian. You cannot say no to the existence of animals.
And when you look into the eyes of an animal, and if you are really awake, you will only see your own deep innocence which might be hidden from you. So look at the animal, pause, meditate for a while, and then go ahead and slaughter it if you can. You will only be slaughtering yourself. I repeat, those eyes are your own primitive eyes.
Now, I'm not trying to say I agree with everything that these gurus preach, but at the very least, they're open and honest and speak what they feel. The aim of a guru should be to speak the truth and pass the truth regardless of how hard it is for the audience to swallow. Seeing Sadhguru speaking like a politician here is very disappointing.
Today there is substantial documentation to show that Plants are as sensitive as any other creature. So whether you eat a plant or an animal or whatever, it is still violence. Only thing is they don't scream. They do scream, you don't hear, that's all.
Firstly, plants cannot scream. Sound is a wave and not a particle. In order to produce sound waves, particles need to interact with each other in specific ways. One needs to have organs that vibrate in order to produce sounds. We humans have vocal cords, and some insects rustle their wings or rub their feet together in order to produce sounds. Now, if you are making the statement that plants scream, it is imperative that you show us which organ of the plant vibrates in order to produce the said screams. Also, there is a big difference between the word sensitive and sentient. Sensitive means being able to detect external stimulus and react accordingly to it. However, sentient means being able to perform complex cognitive calculations, being able to perceive emotions such as happiness and sadness, and also being able to feel pain and suffering. Plants, like other living creatures, are sensitive, meaning that they react to stimulus. When there is sunlight, a plant would face the sun. This does not mean that the plant has cognition, it is just reacting to the stimulus. This is known as tropism. Similarly, when you touch a touch-me-not plant, the water in the leaves is released due to the presence of the stimulus. Therefore, the plant becomes flaccid. This same reaction happens when you expose the plant to high temperatures or if you even blow hard on it. The plant basically contracts its leaves to any kind of external stimulus. Just because it's called a touch-me-not plant does not mean that it can feel. Once again, this is called as tropism. An organism needs to have a brain, a nervous system, and receptor organs in order for it to feel and perceive. Sensitivity and sentience are not one and the same. Please do learn this difference. Also, on a side note, when speaking about the violence that plants go through, he seems to speak so seriously. But when a chicken is chopped up, he's laughing.
There's enough evidence to show that they do scream.
Dear Sadhguru, just show me one peer-reviewed scientific journal that has been published that proves that plants feel pain, and I promise you I will then keep quiet and start eating non-veg. Oh, and just an FYI for all the people watching, random magazine or newspaper articles with clickbait headlines do not constitute as a peer-reviewed scientific study.
Let's say an animal comes, let us say an elephant came and starts eating the leaves of the tree. Immediately this tree will send messages to all its species that it is being eaten by whatever. I don't know whether it'll recognize an elephant or not, but it is being eaten like this. And within minutes, if the elephant goes there to the other trees, all the trees would have produced a certain amount of poisonous material in their leaves. When the elephant tries to eat that, it'll taste bitter and it's poisonous, so it won't touch. So among themselves there is that much sensitivity. So whether you pluck a fruit or a vegetable or cut an animal and eat, everything is cruel. It is just that we must do it with some sensitivity.
Sadhguru has taken the topic of plant communication, given a very poor explanation on the same, and is misleading his audience. Allow me to explain in detail on this and debunk his argument entirely. In forests, trees that have grown the tallest are known as hub trees. Being the tallest trees, they are naturally exposed to the most amount of sunlight. Therefore, they're able to perform a lot of photosynthesis and are able to produce more food than they actually need. This excess food, which is basically sugar, is stored in their roots. Now, deep underground also grows a type of fungus called mycelium. These mycelium grow into the roots of the trees and use the sugar there for nourishment. They soon grow completely into all the roots and also grow deep underground, forming a symbiotic relationship with the tree. The relationship is symbiotic because the tree provides sugar to the fungus, and the fungus in turn provide water and minerals buried deep under the earth back to the tree. This symbiotic relationship is known as mycorrhiza. Now, the mycelium are able to connect themselves to many other trees as well, therefore forming a network between themselves and various trees of the forest. This mycorrhiza network helps in passing water and minerals from one tree to another one which may have been lacking in them. Now, if a tree is being eaten, it can actually alert the other trees in the area about the threat by passing chemicals from one tree to another. Now, although the trees are communicating here, this by no means shows that the trees have a mind of their own or that they're capable of cognition. Now, when animals, including us humans, communicate, we do it either through signals or through chemicals. Now, signals include body language or spoken language, and chemicals include the pheromones that we secrete. Understandable sounds and body language require cognition to perform, which is why some humans who do not have full cognitive growth cannot communicate properly. However, pheromones, which are chemicals, are released via chemical reactions regardless. Cognition is not required for it. Take this example. Imagine if someone very attractive were to pass by you and they were wearing very powerful perfume. Now, the perfume, which is basically a bunch of chemicals, enters into your nostrils. Now, this signal is sent forth to your brain, and your brain, upon receiving this signal, starts secreting dopamine. Dopamine is another chemical, and that creates a very pleasurable sensation for you. Now, all of this will take place in your body, whether you like it or not, because chemical reactions take place when the stimulus is just right. You do not have any control over it. However, you now choosing to look at this person wearing the perfume or go and speak to them falls under cognition. Only you can decide what you want to do. Similarly, like pheromones, the information sent through the mycorrhiza connection is actually a chemical reaction, and this is actually known as infochemicals and not communication. In biology, communication involves signals and cognition, and so plants can only undergo chemical reactions and they cannot communicate per se. Sadhguru sadly does not explain any of this. He just keeps using the word sensitive ad nauseum and then says that the plants communicate and toxins are released. So what? What does that conclude? And also, mycorrhiza exists in the forest and jungle and not in the farmlands where we cultivate crops for food. So even if mycorrhiza were cognizant like Sadhguru claims, nobody eats them, which makes his whole point meaningless. But you know what's even more crazier and meaningless than that argument? Comparing the pain, suffering and brutality that these innocent animals go through in order to be turned into a snack to appease your taste buds to the so-called violence happening to plants. If you are going to be so cruel to the animals regardless, then at least call yourself a selfish and heartless human being instead of making such dishonest and insane rationalizations.
You should drop this idea of being a foodie. We all eat food. We must eat food, otherwise it'll be cruel to this one. Becoming an identity with food, not right, because that means we will indulge, we will not just nourish ourselves. We have a right to nourish ourselves. As a life, we have a right to nourish ourselves because this is how the food cycle is in the world. But we don't have a right to wantonly take another life just for pleasure. We have no business to do that. We have every right to nourish this life, but we have no right to enjoy taking another life.
Sadhguru is being very vague here and leaving his answer out for interpretation by the audience. Once again, Sadhguru is comparing two completely different topics, minimalism and animal rights, and making them seem to be one and the same. Minimalism means taking and consuming only what you need and therefore causing the least amount of negative impact to the environment around you. Animal rights means recognizing that animals are also sentient beings and therefore giving them the right to not be exploited as a resource by human beings. Therefore, veganism becomes a moral obligation and is not just some random option. You cannot justify violating someone's fundamental rights just because you're a minimalist. Say for example, we replaced every single cow and buffalo in a dairy farm with human women. We then start breeding women, killing off their male offspring and milking them, which is basically what happens in a dairy farm. Do you have any idea how much food, water, land and greenhouse gas emissions we could save by doing this? If we bred and exploited women and consumed human milk instead of cow or buffalo milk, we could lead a much more minimalistic lifestyle. But such a lifestyle, even if it is much more minimalistic than how we live now, still causes a fundamental violation to someone else's rights, human rights. The point of the example is this: being minimalistic does not justify exploiting humans or animals. I agree that we have the right to nourish our body, but when we live in a society where we have the choice to choose between plant-based option and animal-based options, why choose the one filled with violence, exploitation and murder? Also, I disagree with this opinion on not identifying yourself with food as in calling yourself a foodie. I don't think there's anything wrong or immoral in that. However, what I do find immoral and reprehensible is exploiting other animals in the name of food when we clearly have other options to eat. Giving out vague answers that can be misinterpreted, laughing at animal cruelty, and also making unscientific claims are neither good for animal rights or spirituality. In conclusion, this video of Sadhguru is very disappointing and misleading. But if you are willing to learn more about veganism, please do check out my YouTube channel, Facebook page and Instagram. I have plenty of videos there talking and explaining about veganism. And also, if you want to have a conversation with vegans in India, I suggest you to join the Facebook group India Vegan Revolution and post your queries and questions there. Once again, thanks for watching. Please live vegan and I'll see you guys next time.